Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for February 7th. I'm your host, Aaron Armstrong, and with me today is Matt. How you doing, Matt?
Taryn, I'm dressed in all black today. This is, I guess, my version of Brent in the Veil. This is my day of announcing the funeral, the death of the live feeds for Big Brother Celebrity. I am pronouncing them dead. I'm going to subtitle this podcast, Your Feeds Are Trash. This is no longer a fun season of Big Brother Celebrity feeds. There's nothing going on here besides a lot of hair curling and yoga and sleeping Tom, and it's just completely too much. I'm done.
I thought you were really sad about Ricky. That was what we were
I'm
going
definitely
with.
not really sad about Ricky. You know, we have boring feeds, so if the most boring house guest is potentially going to go home this week, good with me.
All right, there you go. We are here to tell you everything that happened yesterday on the Celebrity Big Brother 2 live feeds. And as Matt pointed out here, we are losing quite a bit of content, especially toward the end of the day. We'll get to it, but who knows how much more we actually have in the
I'm
future.
just I could never actually pull the trigger and cancel my feeds because I want to know what's going on. I could never actually do that. But do you know how many times I've been so close to doing it this season? It's just like I know that you've been watching too. Obviously, it's just like we get a conversation started and it's like the strategy starts to sneak into people's mouths, and then you're like, the feeds are going to cut in 2 seconds, and then next thing you know, the feeds cut, and it's the most frustrating thing I've ever dealt with. And I don't know, like I don't know, it's really getting to me.
It was pretty bad last night.
It's really getting to me.
Pretty bad.
Like it's been bad for a while now, but last night was like another level of I don't know. Like I think what it turned out that maybe they were sleeping. Most of them were sleeping in that downtime. I don't know, but it's really inexcusable. And we forgive Big Brother Canada because or some of us do because we don't even pay for their feeds, but we are paying for this. We are paying for just sleeping people curling hair and Ricky doing yoga. It's really annoying.
I don't know.
So
I feel like now they feel like no. Feeds are free as a bonus when you are a subscriber of CBS All Access.
I just can't take another show of Julie Chen telling the entire audience, sign up for CBS All Access and watch the house guests live 24/7. It's such a lie. Like she's completely lying to everybody watching, and I hope that nobody is signing up because they're not getting anything on these feeds. We have to pick and go in for like these small little sections of things just to get information to talk about today.
Yeah, so there you go.
That's me fired up. That's my Brent rant.
We started the day with Tom and Natalie. Tom explains, hey, look, I wanted to tell you about the fact that I changed my mind with the nominations, but you didn't really want to talk to me. So, I apologize that, you had no forewarning. I wish you luck in the veto competition.
Yeah, I mean, he's wished everybody luck in the veto competition. His first round of interviews the other day was, "I'm gonna put you up, or I'm considering putting you up, but I hope you win the veto. Don't tell everybody else what I said."
Yeah.
And then they're all comparing stories that day, and they're like, "But he told me that he hopes I win the veto," and they're like, "Oh, he told me that too." Doesn't really mean much.
What a tricky little guy. Natalie's gonna go to Lolo, Tamar, and Ricky, and Tom just I don't know about you, but Tom talked to her, and that was just over the line. So
That's all it takes.
she really needed to go in on him. They talk about, oh, he's just the worst. We are never gonna speak to him again. Never gonna speak to him again after this season. And that's what he wants. He's not here to make friends, which is like the actually opposite, I think, of what Tom is doing. He's a terrible human being. He used Lolo's Olympic dreams. He made fun of you for not having health insurance. Yes, he made fun of me for not having health insurance. That's exactly what happened. F you, CBS, for letting him do that. It was disgraceful.
Yeah, I mean, there's a good video on Twitter that I just watched before we came on of like the actual conversation that Tom and Lolo had versus what Lolo's retell of it was. Very different stories there. But I like I don't know. I guess I'll just get into it now. But I really don't think like obviously what the trio, the people in the gold room have been saying about Tom has been over the line. They've been taking this really far. They're not treating it like a game, but I do feel like Tom has made an error in every step along the way. He just doesn't talk to anybody like they're a real human. This entire game of his has been about putting on a show, putting on the best TV product, and producing everything that's going on in his room. And it just feels like when he talks to people, it's just very calculated. He knows what he's going to say, and he doesn't talk to anybody like they're actual human beings. So it's like I get the frustration that they have, because when they go to talk to him, they're not getting anything at all. So
Well,
I don't know.
that's the funny thing. He, as I mentioned yesterday, he does have a very strange way of expressing himself,
Yes.
except for that conversation with Lolo, which was very human and genuine and sweet,
Yeah.
which is the worst thing he's ever done to Lolo.
I don't know. Maybe he's just burned himself from all of these crappy ways that he's talked to her and talked to everybody for a while now. And we've been calling Lolo crazy, which maybe she is. But she was yelling at Tom all the time because you keep cutting me off, you keep cutting me off. And then I watched him do that exact same thing to Candy yesterday or the day before, and he's like, I know you want to say this, but let me say this first. And I'm like, I'm starting to feel like Tom might be the problem here.
I mean, Tom is a problem, but I don't know if he's the problem. Personally, my opinion is that Lolo and Natalie are like, and Tamar are like way extreme on one side, and Tom is like just kind of an awkward dude on the other side, and that's like, being an awkward dude should not be inviting that kind of vitriol in my opinion.
Yeah. Definitely not trying to excuse like the things that the angry trio has been saying. Like they have 100% taken it over the line and all that stuff. It's just like Tom is not making it easy any step along the way to talk to him like he's he's not talking to anybody else like they're actual human beings. Like he literally produces every conversation, and that just makes me mad watching.
Yes.
But I don't know.
Yes. I think I understand like what you're getting at. I think it kind of ties in with what we were talking about yesterday in terms of just like, it's also in general about how Tom, I think he has trouble expressing himself, which is funny because what Tom does is he says everything that he feels all the time. He doesn't hide anything. He's just like, this is how I feel about this, and it makes people uncomfortable to have such a barrage of explained feelings that not only don't feel genuine but also feel overwhelming because there's so many things. But that's kind of usually what's going on inside of a person. They just usually hold it in, and also when they do express it, it's a little more in some ways weirdly calculated, in the sense that they're like, hey, this is what I'm feeling, and I'm giving you a version of all the turmoil that's going on inside. Tom is just like, hey, here's everything, go.
Yeah, and I mean, like I'm talking about this, I guess, from the perspective of the three angry people, but yesterday is when it really like became an issue for me, because I saw it happen with Candy as well. And Candy is the one person who has been, she guided him in the right direction this week. And just to watch her get so frustrated with him because he's not listening to a word she says, he's just completely shutting out any of her opinions. And I think she might have cried at some point during that. It seemed like she was very upset like later on, which of course we'll get to, but just the fact that like she wasn't even able to get a word in and she came away feeling so upset. I was like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to that conversation. It was definitely I think poorly communicated on both sides, to be honest. Yeah, I think that really this house, I think everyone in this house, even people like Candy and Tom, have just evolved into this sort of state where it's getting hard to communicate at all. Tom is worried about like, hey, no, but don't use that word about threatening, and like, just stop doing this. And I just like, just stop. And Candy's just like, well, you stop being dumb. Stop being dumb.
It's a bad mix. It's really a bad mix of people altogether.
It's just, man, it's so like, we're trying hard to find the entertainment, and I feel like luckily every week there's been at least one high point, usually from Tom's insanity as an HOH. But moving forward, which is like, it's getting tough to find the joy in this season.
Yeah, and I like I said, I tweeted this the other day. I'm just thrilled that Tom was the one who stayed over Kato, because this kind of insanity only happens when Tom is in the house. This is the only thing that gives us something to talk about. Kato had stayed, he would have been hiding back in his room. I don't know if he would have won the HOH and been upstairs for the entire week or not, but Tom is the one who is going to provide anything for us to even talk about. So Glad he
Yes.
stayed.
We had the veto draw, and there's 7 people in the house. 6 of them will be playing. The one person that the Zen Angry Cult needed to play in the veto so that she could win and remove one of them, and then somebody else would go in the block was Lolo. Lolo is the one not playing in the veto. Oh, that was a bad draw.
I love that Brent didn't even realize that until like this morning or something. He put out a tweet saying, "I had no idea that Lola." Yeah, that's the most funny part of yesterday.
Yeah.
The fact that they had all these plans about Lolo maybe taking Natalie off the block, and she's not even
Then we'll
playing.
get Tamar out. It'll be so good. Oh, Lolo, you didn't get picked.
Yeah. Natalie's hoping, I guess, maybe Tamar will take her off the block at this point, but it does seem like the only person who will take her or truly take her off is herself now.
Yeah, Natalie has a conversation with Tamar. Tamar is basically like, "Hey, I'll do whatever you want. I'm playing for you. I'm playing for you, Natalie. Whatever you want, I'll do it." She's like, "Well, take me off the block? Sure. I mean, Lola will go up. It'll be the same." And she's like, "Yeah, you're right. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I'm playing for you. We're good." Heading into the veto, Tom is going to win the power of veto.
Yes, comp beast Tom, Kevin, Martin, Green.
Yeah, winning these competitions. I mentioned this last night on the roundtable. Just something to think about. There are 5 competitions remaining, I assume. You've got HOH and Veto next week at the Final 6. HOH and Veto the week following that, or sorry, not next week, at the Double Eviction at Final 6. Then the following week, another HOH and Veto at the Final 5. And then if it goes according to how it went last season, the Final 4 will just be one competition, one HOH, and whoever wins will take one person to the Final 2, eliminating 2 other people. So that really is advantageous for the competition threats, because Tom has won 4 competitions now. Nobody else has won more than 1 competition. Tom has won 4, Candy's won 0, Dina's won 0. All 3 of the Zen Angry Cult have each won 1 apiece. Tamar has won 1. That's a pretty significant advantage. Now, granted, in Big Brother Canada 6, we thought that we had a similar competition ratio. In fact, it was even more dramatic. And then boom, Paris. She's all of a sudden a comp beast. So you never know.
Yes.
But that is still somewhat significant and something to think about here moving forward. Tom is definitely in a precarious situation for the double eviction, where he probably needs to win the veto, which is probably his most dangerous point. But if he does win that veto, you very, very well might see a Tom Green in the Final 2, and then it's just a matter of like,
we'll see.
Who is he
I
taking?
don't want to get too ahead of ourselves here, because when you think about the competitions that are coming up, we've had a lot of mental ones in the past few rounds. It's been a lot of true false. The last one that they just did this veto was memory. It was the one where you have to remember the color order or whatever, and then if you get it wrong, the colors blow up in your face. And Tom had a good system down for that, so he's been killing it with these. But I do feel like when we get down to the physical ones, like I'm assuming that this double eviction veto is going to maybe be something, running back and forth, you run to get your pieces, clown shoe maybe kind of thing. And I don't know if he's going to be the best in that, but even if he did, if he is and he does get through that, the final HOH last season was the one where they were standing on the ski poles, and I think Ross won that. So, we saw how Tom did in the last endurance competition. He was the first one off. So I really don't know if he's going to be beating any of like the Natalie or Lolo's when you get down to those kind of competitions. So I don't know, like, is he just getting all the good comps now that he's actually good at, or is he potentially going to ride this momentum? I don't know.
It's very likely, and I think that's something that goes underreported in Big Brother when it comes to looking at people as competition threats, is that I think the kind of competition you get matters a lot more than the person that you are, than how good you are at competitions. And so, like, when you think about it, like Casey in Big Brother 20 probably never would have been seen as a big comp beast if she didn't get like 5 competitions about hand-eye coordination, throwing, catching balls, balancing balls, which she's like a football player. Like,
her job, yeah.
Right, like it completely, and she happened to play in all of those. Like, if she doesn't happen to play in those, or if they don't happen to show up, then we have a completely different view of who she is as a player. So it really matters the kinds of competitions that you get. We don't know what they will be. We can look toward the previous season to see if we have any idea what they might be. It looks like final 6 head of household was you have to get across thing.
Yeah, the red carpet, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they had who won? I don't know who won that. But Mark McGrath won that. I think they were crawling across
Yes.
the red carpet, and they had to go back and forth. And I think they had like 2 different heats to compete, and then the winners faced each other. So that's what I'm saying. It gets a little bit more physical at this point. It's a lot less of just true or false.
Yes, and then I think there was something like a puzzle for the veto. I think Tom has the advantage when it comes to puzzles, given what he's been doing so far in competitions. So if we have a puzzle veto, that could matter a lot. A puzzle veto versus a running back and forth veto. That's what I mean. Like it's honestly, it seems less about can Tom do it and more about will he get the competitions? Will he get lucky enough?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's interesting to look at here when there's not a whole lot else to talk about on the feeds. So
Yes.
let's look at Tom has won the veto. Ricky, Natalie, Lolo, and Tamar are going to be talking. Ricky says, "I'm going home." Tom has made things personal. Tom had said he wanted to talk to Natalie and Lolo. Ricky's like, don't bother, don't do it. Which is funny because I think that if Tom did, because Tom wants to talk to them immediately. Us watching at home, we're like, "Uh-oh, what are you doing, Tom? What are you doing?" Thing is, if he did talk to them, there's a chance that he'd propose something and then be like, "Screw you, Tom." And then maybe he wouldn't do the thing, and then maybe Ricky would be safe. But Ricky's like, "No, don't talk to them."
I don't know. Ricky's been kind of resigned to the fact that it's probably him going home for like the past 48 hours or so. And even so, to the point where he's told Natalie, yeah, it's my time to go. And Natalie even is under the impression that if it's the 2 of them on the block, Ricky will like volunteer meta style to be like, it's my turn to go. Which I don't think Ricky actually would do, but I think he just understands that like the votes are not there for him. No, but nobody in his room is reassuring him that we're keeping you. And he knows that, Tom is not casting a tie-breaking vote to keep him at this point. So he does seem defeated. But I don't know if he's like trying to get the girls to not talk to Tom because he wants to just keep everybody away from Tom because he hates Tom so much, or if he's maybe like any kind of strategic, intent with this by saying, don't talk to him because I don't want your deals to be made better. I'm not sure.
Yeah. We in the chat, C. Bickle says, "I wonder if Ricky regrets calling Tom a prick those weeks ago." I can answer that question. No, he does not regret it. He mentioned it, and he was like, "Well, it wasn't even an insult. I don't know why he's so upset about it." He also mentioned the time that he tried to force Tom into doing the stand up in front of him. He was like, "Yeah, I dropped that pretty quickly."
Okay, so it sounds like he does remember all of these things that he did, but he doesn't. He's never put in the effort to actually go talk to Tom to make it better. So
yeah,
that's Ricky for you. This is one of the most boring players I've ever seen.
Yeah. So
and passive aggressive.
Tamar talks about wanting Tom gone. Next, she wants to make sure Tom leaves. Natalie says, "Yeah, we nominate Tom and Candy." Natalie wants to make sure Candy's still involved in this conversation. Tom talks to the cameras and he lets us know he wants to veto Natalie off the block and put Lolo up to ensure that Ricky leaves. Now, this actually, it's hard. We talked about this last night on the roundtable. Is this actually weirdly the right move for Tom, given that Natalie is more likely to go after Candy, although that may not be the case anymore? And to ensure that Ricky leaves, who is definitely going after Tom, I'm not entirely sure. The way he goes about it, the way he thinks he can go about it is definitely wrong. The way he ends up going about it with Candy is also definitely wrong. So ultimately, it probably doesn't even matter. However, I think the base move itself to ensure that Ricky leaves is probably the right move. It's just like everything around it is bad and it's turned it bad.
Yeah, I feel like there was just not a whole lot of thinking ahead from the second he started planning out this HOH week, because, he made these plans in his head and then he talked to Candy and then she kind of made him feel differently. And then he still went through with his plan. He told Natalie this, he told Lolo this, and then Candy came in and talked to him again and he completely changed his things around again. So now, I don't know if when he made these nominations, he was thinking to himself, I'm going to have to take Natalie down. That, but it must have been something that he slept on over the following night, because it just, I don't think it made much sense at the time, but I guess like you're saying now, it does kind of make sense that if he wants Natalie to stay, because if he's looking at the block of Candy, Dina, and potentially Tamar as 3 votes that would evict Natalie, if Candy has that influence over Tamar, then he would have no control over whether or not Ricky leaves. But it's another case of this messy game from Tom Green that's just hard to track, hard to follow, and hard to root for.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that I mean, as I mentioned, it's hard to analyze because his intentions are very different from what's actually good for him. However, I do think that he should have really just never let Candy sway him in the first place. He should have actually gone through with his nominations of Ricky and Lolo, especially if that's what he wants to end up with. I think that actually was best for him. Ricky would have gone, and even if Natalie wins the veto and uses it on Ricky, Lolo leaves, and that's still better for him than Natalie leaving. So, but he doesn't see that. And so he was able to be swayed by Candy because Candy was making a logical argument based on his misreading of the house. And so he did something that was bad for him. He sort of recognized that it was bad for him and wanted to change it back to what was good for him. But what is good for him in his mind is still not the correct way of looking at things. So when he explains it to Candy, it's gonna blow up again because it doesn't make sense, even though it is technically good for him, but it's not in the way that he thinks it is.
And nothing that he's saying is making any sense. Like, he's talking to Candy, and I don't know did we get to this yet? The conversation by the pool table, or is that coming up?
Basically, his overall plan is that he knows that Candy wants Natalie out, and he's worried that Candy will vote to evict Natalie, and that he'll have to get into conflict with Candy about Ricky. And what he wants is a unanimous vote to evict Ricky. He hopes that will unify the house and calm everyone down. Ricky will be gone. He's the mastermind. He's the strategic force. With Ricky gone, then everyone can be friends again, and everyone can just chill, and everything will be happy and fun, and they can just enjoy.
Something like Joey Lawrence. Like, I want all the happy people here for the last week. Like, I don't know where that came from.
So that's Tom's plan. He talks to Dina. He asks Dina, "Will you please vote Ricky out?" She says, "Okay, fine, but you have to agree that Natalie needs to go." Next, Tom says, "Fine, we're good." Then Tom goes to Candy, and they have a conversation at the pool table where he lets her know about his veto plan. Hey, I'm thinking I probably want to take Natalie off the block unless I can be absolutely sure that Ricky will leave next to Natalie. And Candy, having worked on Tom so much yesterday, I think finally just loses her patience here. She's just like, Tom, what are you? That's crazy. Don't be dumb. What are you doing? Stop. And from this point on, this is just, this conversation devolves.
I mean, Tom is like essentially turned into like the Haley and Fessy. Like, he's telling Candy, I think if we get rid of Ricky, that Lolo and Natalie will be willing to work with me. And he's genuinely believing this. He's telling Candy, who is completely like aware of everything going on. She sees the big picture. She sees that they will never be on the same page as Natalie and Lolo. Natalie and Lolo want Candy and Tom out. Candy and Tom should want Natalie and Lolo out. But Tom's saying, well, if we get Ricky out, then the girls won't put us up. It's like, who else is there left to put up? Do you think that they're going to go after like, I don't know what he's trying to, like what's going through his head. And like, Candy's frustration is like the exact same frustration that anybody watching has, because we can see it clear as day and Candy can see it clear as day, and she's trying to explain to him in the most simple terms, nothing you are saying is making any sense. And he's like, no, I really I think that that Lola will work with us if we like, what are you talking about? This doesn't make any sense.
Remember the thing that I did that made Lolo and Natalie mad at me in the first place and think that I'm a terrible person, which was that I wanted to use the veto and I had too many ideas and I wanted to get Ricky out? I'm thinking,
let me do it again.
That if I do that again, this time it'll work and they'll love me for it.
But this time it does involve them being on the block and me playing around with their lives in the games like it's just, little chess pieces. But what is and this is when I tweeted yesterday that I was like, maybe is it possible that, with only a few days left and Tom maybe not so high on his chances of winning, he's literally just trying to make the most exciting television by saying, well, let me make a big move at the veto ceremony and I'll take Natalie off the block and nobody will see it coming, and then I'll put up some, like, I feel like that might be just what he's going for at this point, because because this can't. He's not stupid. He's not a stupid person. He's a smart guy, and he's genuinely believing that there's a chance that Natalie and Lola will want to work with him next week. I don't get it.
I think you're correct, and he's later going to talk about this in those terms. I think he is trying to make good TV, and at the same time, he's trying to make sure that he doesn't come away from the show as the threatening guy. He wants the women to stop hating him, and he's willing to do whatever it takes to get them back. And he previously thought that, like, okay, I'll just do whatever they want. Remember, previous to the women yelling at him, he was like, I'll vote out Joey for them. I'll do what I won't do the Ricky plan. I'll get Joey out. I'll do whatever they want. And that did not work. They still screamed at him, and he was like, okay, that's not working. So now he's convinced that it's all Ricky. He thinks, okay, I just need to do everything in my power to get Ricky out of the house. Then they won't hate me anymore, and I can make good TV while I do it and do something that's going to surprise everyone. And they'll be so surprised. They'll be like, oh, Tom, we didn't even realize that you were so good and not terrible and evil. Like he's trying very hard to make this happen, and it's just not going to happen because he doesn't see that Ricky is not the source of all of his problems. He just thinks he is because Ricky was the only one to show that he didn't like Tom previous to everything that happened. But really, the women never liked Tom. Even when they started working with him, they were like, this is just a temporary thing. Kato and Tom are fine. They didn't even like Tom that much. They were like, we kind of like Kato, but Tom, whatever.
Yeah, the idea of the alliance, the idea of Team Fun has been Tom's all along. It was originally just, let's promise them safety, they promise us safety going into the week of the HOH after Ryan Lochte's HOH. So they were just trying to keep each other safe. And then, Tom started the whole, let's call each other Team Fun thing. We'll get Ricky involved. And Natalie said all along, I don't really like Tom. Lola was the one who vouched for him in the first place. But, this has not been a stable connection the entire season. And I guess Tom's hoping, in the final hours of the season, maybe he can course correct and make this all better. But it's coming at the cost of poor Candy, who just finally started to see the light of day, finally started to play the game, finally saw maybe I have a partner here who could win competitions and help me get farther. And now she's like smacking her head against the wall, trying to talk any common sense into him. Yes.
Candy's trying to tell Tom, look, Natalie is the biggest threat. Stop being stupid. We need to get Natalie out. She's more likely to win next week. If you have to win the veto to stay next week. If one of them wins HOH, Ricky's not going to win anything. He doesn't win anything. Natalie
Ricky is not
more
a comp threat.
Likely to win. And Tom is like, no, Ricky's going to win, and he's going to take me out. Mm-hmm. Ricky's going to win. He's going to send me home. And Candy's like, look, you're going to do what you're going to do. So just go ahead and do it. Just do it.
Yeah. Ricky has won one competition this entire season, and it was one he's playing against 5 people because the Mooch was in that, and of course the Mooch wasn't trying to win. So you had, and it was the one with like the stacking the gold bars on top of the thing. So it's like essentially like building a card house. Like if you get lucky and your other competitors drop all their stuff first, like that was entirely luck. And Ricky's not a comp threat. I think he came in or he was second out in this veto competition. It's very clear that Natalie is the one that you should be worried about right now, but we are very well aware that Tom cannot get past this Ricky thing. So.
Well, I mean, like I said, I personally feel like Ricky probably is Tom's greater threat, at least at the moment. Whereas I think that Candy is completely correct that Natalie is a bigger overall threat, and certainly a bigger threat to her as well. But also, again, when like Candy's arguments make more sense than Tom's, even though Tom is theoretically arguing for his own best interest, because Tom is arguing for a different thing that just happens to coincide with his best interest, and Candy is correct in arguing against Tom's thing that just happens to coincide. So Candy kind of just gives up, and Tom is frustrated because he's like, oh, Candy, this is supposed to unite us.
Yeah, and he's like, I gave you what you wanted. I put Natalie on the block, and now you're not helping me out at all in getting out my target. Like, you have to be on board with what I want, just like I was on board with what you wanted.
Yes, and so he brings up this idea, I can use the veto on Natalie, and I can put up somebody that you won't want to vote out, and then we can make it unanimous. He wants it to be unanimous. He wants the house to be united. And Candy's like, oh, there you are with the threats. There you are with the threats. And he's like, no, No, don't use that word. I'm not being threatening. Please. Look, I have been emotionally targeted for 3 weeks now. I'm tired and I just want to enjoy my last week in the house. And she's like,
and this is the start of the producers going,
stop threatening.
This is it. Nope, you can't watch. Nope, no, nothing. Sorry, bye. This is it.
He's like, I just want to talk. I want to talk to the women. I want to get them on board. We're going to work with them. It'll be great. And Candy's like, that's not going to work, Tom.
Yes.
Like, oh. And Candy, again, just gives up here. She's just like, look, I just need to go rest. I just need to think about this. And Tom's like, no, I need you. Please don't leave me. I need you. You are smarter than me. And she's just like, I just can't, Tom.
What else can she possibly say to this guy? Like, nothing is getting through. He's very clearly standing his ground and not willing to change what he's, what his mind has already been made up. And I would walk away too if I was Candy. There's not much left that she can do. But the problem here is obviously what comes next, where Candy's next conversation. So
I mean, for me, I wished that Candy had tried a little hard. I know that it's frustrating to try and operate with Tom. I can see that. She did it successfully yesterday though, and I do genuinely feel like if she had a little more patience with Tom and she had like sat down and worked it out with him, that she could have convinced him to go the other way. I think that he was open enough to it, and I think that she's capable enough of it, but she didn't really try very hard in this conversation. Right from the get-go, she was just kind of frustrated. She just kind of didn't have the patience, and like he's literally like begging her to stay as she's walking away, and she's just freely giving up the influence that she has over Tom, which is unfortunate. I wanted more from her in that moment. I still, I on a personal level, I completely understand where she's coming from. I still think she's fantastic as a person. As a player, I wanted a little more there, and then also, what she's going to do with Tamar right after she leaves is another sort of a little bit of an error here, in my opinion. She goes to Tamar. She's still frustrated, and she's like, Tamar, Tom's gonna do the back door. He's using the veto. He needs to put up somebody that I won't vote out. And Tamar's like, what? He's putting me up? You're voting me out? She's like, no. I'm not voting you. You're voting me out. I knew it. You shouldn't have worked with Tom. I knew you shouldn't have worked with Tom. I told you this was going to happen. And Candy's like, no.
Tamar wasn't in Tom's plans whatsoever. Like she wasn't somebody that he was considering targeting or anything this week. It's always been about Ricky, but Tamar in the back of her head knows that she just put up Tom and Kato last week. She just took out Kato, Tom's best friend. And she's, I guess, had this suspicion, even though she hasn't been totally vocal about it. I mean, she's mentioned it here or there, whatever. But she's been thinking that Tom is going to eventually put her on the block, backdoor, whatever. So now she feels justified. Candy's coming to her saying he's going to use the veto, and she's like, "Yep, it's me. I knew this was coming."
And we know from him talking to the cameras that Lolo was his plan, maybe still is his plan. Who knows if it's changed, because what happens here is that Tamar starts freaking out that it's going to be her, and she goes and she tells Natalie, Ricky, and Lolo, and she said, "Hey, Tom's putting me on the block." She bursts into Tom's putting me on the block, and I mentioned this last night on the round table. They were like, "Oh, oh man, oh what? No, who told you that?" This is exactly what we wanted to have happen.
I guess they probably do see a little bit of a bright light here, like, oh, maybe this is something, but it's really not anything, because that's not what Tom's likely plan is in the first place. So let's not get too excited.
Yes.
What do we call them? The angry people?
Zen angry call. The Zach.
Let's not get the Zacks too excited here.
Yeah. It would be easy if we called them the Zach cult, but that would be like calling it an ATM machine.
Wouldn't that be it?
Zach attack, but that's a little too Zach Rants for me.
Miss that guy.
Tamar is going to go into the kitchen, and she's mad at Tom. So you're back to threatening people? Tom's like, no, please stop using that word. We're just playing a game. It's just a game. And Tamar's like, no, not when you're threatening people. It's not when you're cut.
Yes. And there goes the feeds for the next 4 hours, the rest of the night, essentially. They have just been so picky with what they show us, and I really feel like there must be something going on behind the scenes with like a lawyer or a publicist or a manager, somebody that I don't know if it's Tom's or Tamar's or whoever's it is, that I feel like there's got to be something that is back there where they're saying, stop putting all the stop letting people see all of them getting angry with each other and ugly. And like we know that Lolo said at some point during the day, they told her specifically, you have to be respectful to your other house guests, you can't call them male chauvinistic pigs, don't say that anymore. And Lolo, because she was talking about that, so they very clearly want the house to be a little bit nicer, or a lot of bit nicer. They don't want this on the feeds. So the second that things get good, we are not allowed to see them anymore.
I think what's happening here is that production tried to intervene and they tried to stop this from happening. They were like, we got to stop. We got to be nicer to each other. You can't be calling these people things, because they see what's happening and they see that like the response is like so much more dramatic than the cause. And they're trying to like calm these people down. But in trying to calm them down, for somebody like Lolo, it's like, what, are you taking his side? It's
like,
Are you
screw you,
are
CBS.
You threatening me, CBS? Are you making fun of my Olympic dreams? And so they're starting to get the brunt end of it, as we saw, where Lolo's now like, F you, CBS. And so they're like, what do we do? They're all of a sudden trapped in this situation. So their only source of recourse here is, all right, we can't tell them not to say these things, because then they'll get mad at us and they'll say that we censored them from men who are threatening them. That's not a look we want to have. So we just need to cut it all. We just we'll let them do it, and we just won't show it. That's the only thing we've got left.
It's really, really frustrating if you can't control your own house guests and find a way to sit them in the diary room for 2 hours. I don't care what it takes. If Lolo's the one who's been going off about this and that, sit her down, let her calm down in the room, explain to her what the situation is, and explain to her, we can't keep these live feeds running while you're bad mouthing Tom and calling him this, calling him that. Like you need to remember this is a game. Like, I don't care. Remind her that this is like, that everybody's watching her act like this. I don't care. It's just,
then you have post-game interviews with Lolo, who said, I had men threatening me in the house, and CBS, part of the patriarchy, shut it down. They protected Tom, and I felt unsafe in that environment, and that's such a bad look for CBS, especially right now.
It's really not fun for any of the house guests. I'm sure it's not fun for production, but it's really not fun for us watching. That the second that anything gets good, the second that Tamar starts to tell Tom how she really feels, of course we cannot watch it, and we're just going to be stuck to Dina curling her hair for the rest of the night.
Yes. So feeds cut, and pretty much the only time they come back is when people are sleeping, or that there's nobody like people are reading, just nice and silent. If you just tuned into the feeds last night post Tamar blowing up on Tom, then you'd think, man, these people are really zen. Actually zen. It
was bad. There was like a couple of times where like people would wake up, or because I think, like I said, I think that some of them were asleep maybe at some point. I don't know. But some of them would like start to talk game, and the second that they said anything about the game, they would completely cut to somebody else. There was the three girls were in the train car room. They were about to start talking. Cut away. There was we actually did get like about 5 minutes or so of Candy and Dina had gone to talk to Natalie and Lolo, and that actually went through, but it still didn't last as long as it could have.
Yes, we did get some bits here and there. We saw feeds come back, and Tamar was berating Candy more for working with Tom. Like, I told you this would happen. You screwed this up for us, blah, blah, blah. So that was going on. Candy did have this conversation with Lolo and Natalie. Candy is this is what I liked from Candy. She feels like, okay, if I can't get Natalie to leave, then I need to get Natalie on my side. I like this from Candy here. This is the right thing to do if you're sure that you're not going to be able to get what you want. I still would have preferred her to get what she wants first, because I wouldn't say that these people are particularly trustworthy, and it would be very good for her if Natalie left. However, this is the next best thing. She talks to them. She's like, look, I felt threatened by you, and I apologize for that. I thought you were going to put me up next to Tom, and they're like, yeah, that's understandable. You were doing what's best for your game. And they kind of amend, they get make amends. They're feeling okay. Lolo's like, you know what, we should be communicating directly instead of going through Tamar. And by the way, I know you think that Tamar saved you, but Tamar's been talking about how you need to go on the block and all of this stuff. And this is a big opening for Candy because Lolo and Natalie do not like Tamar. So if Candy can get in here and be like, hey, I'm willing to work with you. They are like so down to replace Tamar with Candy if they need to. The only thing is that they know that they can't beat Candy in the end. But they plan on taking each other to the end anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So Candy's like, oh yeah, that's interesting. And Natalie's like, hey, we should be working together. We should, don't be working with Tom. You don't need to be working with Tom. You work with us. And Candy's like, yeah, I'm good with that. I don't need to work with Tom anymore. I'll work with you guys. That sounds good to me.
Yeah, there's been very little communication between Candy and Dina with anybody in this room really, besides Tamar. Obviously, we know that Tamar and Candy have their connection, but other than that, they don't talk. Like they pass each other in the house during the day, and sometimes you get to like the halfway point of a regular Big Brother season, and you're on day 40, and it's like two people you're like they literally have not talked the entire game, and they've been in the house for over a month. So now we're at, I guess, the 20 something day, point of the season, and there's only like 7 days left to go. But these people are realizing that they never actually talk to each other, and this is about to be the end game. So, like you said, smart on Candy for going to them and try. And she was very upfront about it, in like a less in a better way than Tom going to Ricky saying, listen, I was trying to backdoor you, and not trying to explain it at all. He was just saying, this is what I was doing. Sorry. Candy was like, listen, I know you guys were going to put me on the block. Tom seemed like somebody that I could attach myself to go a little bit further in the game. It's not like it wasn't anything personal. I just see you as a strong competitor, and it seemed like something that might have been able to get done. But if we can talk and we can get on the same page, then I'm all for it. So good on Candy, I think, here.
Yes, this conversation may have saved Candy. If Natalie does stay and Natalie gets power, she might decide, you know what, maybe Tom is worth going after first, then Candy. However, Candy is still the number 2 on the hit list. She may have saved herself for 1 week, but not really anything more than that, as it seems right now. So she's still kind of in a precarious spot here. It would, again, still be better if Natalie just left entirely. But it's better than nothing, and 1 week could make all the difference in this game, especially, again, when there's very few competitions left and you only need 1 or 2 of them. So
yeah. For sure, though, if Natalie or Lolo won the double eviction HOH, it's Tom and Candy are still going on the block regardless, I would say. And then, if Tom doesn't win veto, it's obvious he's going home. But this conversation didn't do enough where it's like, all right, well, I guess we'll keep Candy now. Candy's still going to be the second option. So
she'll need to, I think that there's a door open here where, again, I think if she works this angle enough, and I know I'm looking at this from a perspective of a person who's playing the game on a level that just isn't in the house, but there is an opening here where a good enough player could definitely keep pressing on this, and like I said, kind of end up replacing Tamar and get to the point where they might put Tamar up on the block with Tom in the double eviction, or even further, make Tamar go before Candy. I think that possibility is there. Will Candy keep pressing? I'm not sure. I don't want to assume that she will, but it's definitely open to her. As is, I think, if she went and she talked to Tom today, I think that she can still get through to him. It's just a matter of trying and using her the skills we know she has in the correct way. Will these things happen? Probably not, but the door is open if she wants.
I find it kind of interesting that you think that they would potentially want Tamar out bad enough that they would keep Candy in. So, assuming that Natalie and Lolo both stayed in the house this week, who do you think that their ideal final 4 would be? I guess Dina and one of the other 2.
Dina and I think right now it's Dina and Tamar.
Right, that's what I was, because I wasn't sure if you were saying that you think that Candy would be the better pick for them right now.
Right, but I think that the way that they are looking at things, they, like I said, they've constantly talked about Tamar just frustrates them. They want to get her out, and she's also won a competition. She's also a little bit more of a threat. She also, as they know, is a fan favorite because they suspect that she has the power. I think that if Candy worked hard enough to get in with the women, and right now the biggest thing against Candy for Natalie is that Natalie sees Candy as this like tricky, oh, you got in with Tom and you've been sort of pulling some strings and you'll definitely win in the end. Candy did a pretty decent job of going there and just being like, look, I just went to Tom because I didn't have anywhere else to go. Like playing this sort of like, I really am the person you thought I was for a few weeks where I'm just not doing anything. And I kind of got pushed to one side. She could also, there's so much dirt she has on Tamar. She can say, Tamar told me to do this. Like Tamar's been telling me about what she's been telling you guys because Tamar has been running back and forth. She's got the dirt. I think they would definitely flip on Tamar. They would see Candy as a lesser competition threat, which lets the two of them get to the end more easily. Like I said, I think the pieces are there. I don't think that she sees all those pieces. I don't think that she will put all of them together and put them
Candy
in the right
has to
place.
connect the dots here. But it's tricky because, as we know, Tamar will go easily to Natalie and Lolo and say, Candy's annoying the crap out of me. I understand that I messed up and we shouldn't have kept her. But Candy doesn't do the same thing about Tamar. She doesn't really throw Tamar under the bus because she doesn't see that Tamar is throwing her under the bus at the same time. So, Candy's a little bit blind to that part.
Yeah. So, like I said, I think the door is kind of open there, but likely not going to walk through it.
And she still has to deal with this frustration of Tom Green and the rest of his HOH before she can even think about the next step. So
yes, she talks to Dina. She tells her about Tom and what he's doing and their frustrations with him. Dina ends up kind of like crying here. She feels bad for Tom. Candy's like, it's his own fault. He's doing this to himself. Dina feels bad. Tom's been in his alone in his room ever since Tamar went off on him, and Candy was like, it was pretty bad. It was a pretty bad one. Like, oh wow, we missed something big here.
Yeah, and Tom says he's been trying to, or he says later, I guess he's been trying to keep to himself. So, it's not like I don't know if he's like necessarily hiding. He says he was hiding, so I guess he's trying to avoid everybody. Plus, he's obviously thinking like crazy because he never stops thinking about what he's gonna do. But he does tell us what he's gonna do, I think.
Yeah. So we go up to Tom, and he's talking to the cameras. He wants to make a move at the veto ceremony. He does plan on using the veto, or at least it appears that he plans on using the veto. He is a little bit vague with us because he doesn't want us to know in the same way that he doesn't want the house to know. He wants nobody to expect what he's going to do. He wants people to be surprised. He says that Zach made a mistake not evicting him, that they should have evicted him over Cato because, Cato wouldn't have done this. No. And he's sad that the game has gotten so mean-spirited. It should just be a game. It should be fun. He also talks about how Dina is his only true ally. He knows now that Candy is running back to the other side and telling them what he's been telling her because as soon as he got done in his conversation with Candy, Tamar came at him for everything that he just told Candy. So now he feels a bit betrayed by Candy and knows that he can't really trust her moving forward. Even though she's kind of an ally, he can't really trust her. So that's what we're looking like here. Tom, he wants to make some surprising move. So maybe that's putting Lolo on the block. Maybe now that Tamar's come at him and he feels like Candy betrayed him by telling Tamar this information, maybe the move is to put Tamar on the block.
I think that is the move. Just now that he knows that there's this connection between the two of them. And I really, because if he thought that they might vote out Natalie and Tamar might be in with Candy to do that, then they could very easily just vote out Lolo and keep Ricky in against Tom's wishes. So I really feel like if he wants to go with this plan, he's probably got to put up Tamar at this point.
Which, again, is what I've been advocating all along.
Yeah, but he's not doing this for those reasons.
I know. That's what I'm saying. He just keeps, it makes it so hard for me to talk about because he keeps backing into the moves I recommend for him, but doing so in the most asinine way that it's like I'm trying to criticize and also say, but at the same time, it might be the right thing. Right. So it's difficult. So Tamar might be going on the block, which I do think would create a good dynamic for Tom. And then, honestly, Tom could do anything at this point. I could see him being dumb enough to put Candy on the block. I really could. I don't think it's likely, absolutely. But I think it's a small possibility. So like, watch out.
Yeah, I don't think he. Obviously, I don't think that he should do that because Candy is one person in the game that seems to be like
gone
close
if she goes on the block.
Yeah, no, absolutely gone. But at this point, like the damage done? I mean, it makes sense that Tamar is a much better choice than Candy, but this is Tom Green we're talking about. He could do anything, and I guess it wouldn't surprise me at this point. So
yes, we know all we know for sure is that Dina will not go on the block. Yes. Anybody else is basically open game at this point.
He needs to make sure there are 3 votes, at least, at the very minimum, 3 votes to get Ricky out. So there can't be somebody more appealing on the block because he needs that Candy vote. Candy is like the most crucial vote, honestly, that he needs because he can control her vote more than anybody else besides Dina.
Yes. So I think that Tamar or Lolo are the most likely. I think that Candy is a small possibility. If I had to guess, I mean, he mentioned Lolo. He never mentioned Tamar. So I'd lean toward Lolo before Tamar. However, after what happened with Tamar, I think it's definitely a large possibility that Tamar would go on the block. Honestly, with the way he was talking about how nobody would expect it, he could pull Ricky down for all we know. Again, very unlikely, but you know, he's talking about doing something surprising. He already told us, and here's the thing too that I just was thinking about. He already told us to the cameras that he was going to pull Natalie down and put Lolo up. Then later he was like, I'm going to do something surprising, guys. I'm not going to tell you what it is. He already told us the Lolo plan, so maybe he has changed his plans. Maybe I'm kind of talking myself into the Tamar thing.
Or maybe
instead.
he just wants to make sure the cameras get it because he needs to repeat himself a million times a day.
True.
Give the producers any different kind of combination of scene that they can use because he literally has the entire show in his head. He's talking about he's like, I wonder if there's a cameraman in this room watching me right now. I hope when I get out of here, they give me a tour behind the scenes so I can see everything going on.
Also, he was clearly in an emotional state there. Like, he had been berated. It was pretty bad, apparently, by Tamar, and had been alone in his room the whole night, and it was getting late. He might have just been, like, emotional in that moment, and then when he wakes up this morning, he might be like, should I really go through with what I was thinking before? So he might not even do what he was thinking the night before. He might do something else. Who knows?
Yeah. Either way, I feel like he probably will take Natalie off the block. I feel like it's really heavily where he's leaning. I don't know who he's going to put up, but I feel like he's way too afraid of the fact that this big threat is on the block and there might be people voting her way instead of the one person that he needs to get out of the house in his head.
Yes. So lots of open possibilities here for the veto ceremony. That's the thing with Tom in terms of watching him, is that you never know. We're left with some uncertainty, and that's a little fun, at least.
Yeah, we've got the entire season has been, the longer HOH reigns and the shorter ones, and Tom has gotten both of the long HOH reigns. So
Thank
I guess
God.
in terms
Could you
of
imagine?
yeah, I mean, especially like for Tamar's game, if she had the longer HOH, she would have probably gotten a little bit of the HOH-itis, but she only had like 48 hours, so it didn't go anywhere. But I mean, in terms of it's gotten ugly, but in terms of entertainment, Tom is the one we wanted in that room up there.
Yes, so we'll probably have the veto ceremony at some point today. That's what I would imagine, unless they planned on doing it live on the Friday episode, which I don't think is likely. I know Brent kind of thought maybe, but I think it's a lot more likely they do it today. I hope they do it today because I think especially if he does put up Tamar, there's a lot of fun to be had. Yeah. And if they did it live on Friday, then there would be none of that fun.
No, they only do it live when they really don't have any time, right. Especially when they do the live veto on the episode. But I think as often as possible, they would want to get all of the footage in already so that they can, edit it and, 2-hour show coming up on Fridays. Plus there's going to be so much time on Friday because tonight is going to be HOH and, they're already going to get so much in the first place. So having 2 hours tomorrow, they have a lot of time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the hope I'm really looking forward to the Friday episode. I feel like maybe it'll be the first really good episode of the season.
Yeah, I expect we're gonna get family videos probably.
Yes, well, actually, they said family videos on Thursday. I think Tamar said, but that might mean they get them on Thursday. They air it on Friday. Yeah, so we might get a feed outage here for the veto ceremony, and then
shocking, a feed outage on Celebrity Big Brother season 2. You don't say.
Yeah. So anyway, tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, I will be live to update you on everything that happens today on the live feeds. Hopefully, we'll know what happens with the veto ceremony and then what the plans are for the eviction moving forward. Tonight, there will be an episode, and we will be live after the episode to recap it. Should be a lot of fun. And then, again, tomorrow night, live 2-hour double eviction special. Be fun.
We'll be down to the final 5 after tomorrow night.
Yeah,
there are
crazy.
7 house guests right now. We will be down to 5, and then within 6 days from now, this will all be over, and we can maybe just forget it happened and move on to Big Brother Canada 7.
Yeah. All right. You can find me on Twitter at Armstrong Taryn. You can find Matt at Matt Lagori.
Yes.
And thanks for joining us. See you next time.